I want to talk about production next. Production. First of all, you have to choose a distributor, and I'm going through Amazon, which is the big elephant in the room. Obviously it has the most amount of access to the most amount of people in the world, so you can get major sales on it. There are other platforms. Smashwords is another big one, and they're small, but they're what's called an aggregator, which means they aggregate many different other distribution outlets. So you go to Smashwords, you do your one, you have them distribute, but then they'll distribute out through many of them, including Barnes & Noble, which is basically all the other big ones is what they do. So you can virtually just do these two, and you'll probably get most all your outlets. And everyone, you own the rights. You're not giving rights over to anybody, so you can withdraw it at any time. But the point is in general, I've heard iBooks is the second biggest compared to Amazon, but even then it's way small. Literally, iBooks is second biggest. Barnes & Noble, I mean, I had mine on Barnes & Noble when I first started. I sold nothing, so I basically, I'll explain why and things you can do. What was I thinking of it? Oh, each can be dealt with separately. You can just go to Barnes & Noble if that's what you want, or go to iBooks separately. But Smashwords, you go through them. But here's the thing. Things to be aware of with Smashwords. Smashwords only gives you 60% royalty, which is less than Amazon. Amazon on their digital books gives you 70%. But you do get multiple sources, so that's good. And you don't have to do everyone individually. That's really good. That's a benefit. But because there are more outlets, you have more complicated requirements on the front end so that they can make sure they're doing it right for everybody. They pay by check or PayPal. Smashwords does. Problem with PayPal is this transaction fee for everything.
Yeah.
So you're not getting you're losing money there. With Amazon, it's a direct deposit in your bank. That's direct deposit 70% royalties. And Smashwords are all DRM free. That means digital rights management, which digital rights management is so that people can't just copy it and stuff like that, and Amazon is exclusively, once someone buys it, only they can open the book. They can't give it to someone else. That's a good thing, and I do that, and I support it. But there's a lot of people who don't just believe, look, the reality is this, folks. You can easily strip that DRM. So the bottom line is if someone wants to do that, they're going to do it anyway. And I have to, I have to fill out forms every couple weeks of people who are stripping my DRM off my book and trying to give it free to people. So I have to Google those and file copyright claims, But the point is that Amazon does have DRM and this doesn't. So it's something to be aware of. Each distributor has different requirements. You just have to read through them all. You have to read through. So you go through Smashwords and read through all the requirements. Most of them nowadays work with Word files. That's basically the file you need is just a Word file. And we'll talk about formatting and all that, but a Word file is all you need. Now, why I went exclusive with Amazon, they're the biggest elephant. Everyone in the world can access them. They're centralized sales. Now, what that means is I had a plan for how I wanted to be able to rise in status in the purchases, like trying to get in the top 10 in Amazon, but if I'm selling to other outlets, that's diffusing my sales. I wanted all sales focused in one point so that I can raise my status at Amazon, because if you can get into a top 10 best-selling list of any category, you'll sell more books. So now that I have that basis, I'm going to look into doing Smashwords, but I waited a few years before. I just went exclusively so I could centralize everything and focus it, and that becomes more intense. Is there a problem, by the way? No, okay. But also there's exclusive deals, marketing help that Amazon gives you. If you go exclusively with Amazon and not anybody else in distribution for digital, they offer things that we'll talk about in the marketing section. You can offer your book for free or 99 cents and all this kind of stuff for a limited time, and other things that they give you. And then lastly, because I'm lazy, it's a lot. I don't want all this paperwork coming from all these different places, having to juggle tons of, you go through Amazon, it's kind of all centralized, and they can just kind of do everything. And it's minimal paperwork every month. So, But there are dangers to centralization. There are dangers. First of all, the dangers of the monopoly. At first, they offer you a great deal because they want to get everybody there and they're the biggest one. But then after a time, when they have everyone, they start to change the rules. Amazon has already begun to do this. It's not immoral and it's not illegal, but it is the reality. For example, they've offered subscription services. You know, that's like Netflix. Now, readers who read a lot can just pay $10 a month and have access to not all the books. Like, you can keep your book out from there. But if you go with Kindle Select, your book becomes available to them to borrow and read. Or people can just borrow it. They've got a borrowing policy. You'll make less money on borrowing. I make $3-4 a book buying. I make $1 a book borrowing. However, there's advantages because the more people read your book, the more people will tell about your book. So there's advantages to borrowing. But I'm just saying, be aware of these things. And the point is when Amazon did subscription, when they said, okay, you can buy books, but now if you pay us $10 a month, you can read any of these books at any time, like a huge library like Netflix. Well, guess what? My sales cut in half. Huge people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars, their sales cut in half because now all the money's going to Amazon. But you can't blame them because they were trying to get more money for themselves. All right, and the fact is they're giving you a service. So you have to be aware of these things. The other thing is diversification as a general rule is always good. The more you spread your risk out, the better you'll be. If you put all your eggs in one basket, if that basket fails, what's going to happen, right? And I definitely believe in that. The general outlet is the more outlets, the general rule is the more outlets you have your book in, the more you're going to increase your sales in general. So even though I have been exclusively Amazon, I'm going to be looking into Smashwords and trying to do that. I'm going to try that for a while and see how well that works, but now only after a few years. Because now I have my sales presence on Amazon. And now, because here's the thing, there are a lot of people who don't like Amazon and they like to buy through these other outlets. So they wouldn't buy you on Amazon anyway. So, and then there's also ISBN numbers, we'll talk about that, which is if you got the same ISBN number, it still counts for sales. It just won't count for sales on Amazon. But now, there are 3 formats that we're going to talk about: ebook, paperback, and audiobook. These are the 3 we already talked about. Let's look closer at format. First of all, ebook. Again, I'm focusing on Kindle. So if you go to the Kindle help page on the left there, all I did, folks, you don't even have to come here today. You could have just gone to that website and read every one of those things, which is what I did, and that's how I learned everything. Not true, there are a lot of little things they don't tell you, but nonetheless, go to the help page after today, and they'll step you through all the exact details. Step-by-step directions. They're very easy, and they're very well done. But I'll show you in general, how easy it is. First of all, the interior. All you need is a Word file, and again, starting with Kindle, and Smashwords is like this too, but you do have to do some other things. But basically for Kindle, all you need is basic formatting, nothing fancy. Because when you upload it as a Word file, it does all the translation and conversion for you. And basically, it is, if you know Kindle, you know that Kindle is variable type size for readers, right? So it's not set in stone like a paperback page. So when Kindle takes it, they're just reading your text. They're not reading any other formatting. There's a few formatting things you have to be aware of. There's a few formatting things that they do take into consideration. Like, for instance, not pictures, sorry. You don't want tabs. You don't want to use tabs. You just use basic paragraph formatting for yourself. So what you do is you just use the standard formatting, but if you want your first line to be indented, you format that within the paragraph formatting indent. You don't do a tab. You indent it automatically in paragraph formatting, and then that will translate. Leading won't matter. Type size won't matter because that's all adjustable. The one pre-formatted thing you use is heading 1 under... See heading 1 in the style sheet on Word? Style sheet's heading 1, that's an important one to use. You use that for your chapter heads. And you can go into the chapter heading and change the formatting, but you just want it connected to your chapter heads because Amazon will read those headings as chapter heads and will give you an automatic index. So like you can jump to any chapter, when you're on a Kindle, you can jump to any chapter you want. It'll read from your headings, your chapter headings, and it'll create that automatically. So you want that. And you want to start each chapter with a new page. Just start new page. Not a big deal. But again, it doesn't read the type size, the leading, fonts, or headers or footers. It doesn't read any of that. Pictures can be embedded. I embed maps and stuff. You just embed it within the text, so you got to learn how to do that in Word. It's not a big deal. But you can embed pictures, and you can do color for Kindle, which is fine. Make it flow with the text so that when the text moves, it flows with it. And it will turn out, I haven't been able to figure out a good way to get a good high resolution on Kindle. I'm not sure there is one. They tend to be less resolution in Kindle, but it's better than nothing. However, after saying this, nevertheless, I still do format my Word file, my single Word file. I format it for the paperback book, which is what we'll talk about next. But the reason why I do that is, it's not going to read the formatting anyway. And why have two files? Why have a file for digital and a file for paperback, right? And then you have to make changes on both. Screw that. You just do it for the paperback, which I'll show you how. And then it doesn't read all the unnecessary stuff anyway. And then you will only have one file to change that works for both paperback and for Kindle. See, the paperback file you'll save differently, but nonetheless, it's one file. And so let's take a look now at the formatting of the paper. Well, are there any questions about the formatting for Kindle before we talk about formatting for paperback? It's that basic. Like I said, you're going to have to look step by step to know the details, but this is the most important thing, and it's that simple.
Fonts. Preference?
They don't read fonts because font is determined in the Kindle app, so it doesn't matter what font you use. However, we're going to talk about that for paperback. You do want to choose a readable font for paperback. In fact, if there's no other questions. Okay. Let's look at paperback. Cover design. I'm sorry. You know what? We're not moving on to paperback yet. So I will talk about paperbacks, but for the paperback, you just want a readable font. And find a book that you like and try to figure out what the font is. But don't be fancy and don't use cool fonts. Read one that is pleasant to you to read, because then it will be pleasant to others to read. But yeah, we'll talk about that. But now I want to talk about the cover design, which I'm jumping way ahead here. Cover design for Kindle. Like I said, I'm a designer, so I do it all myself, which saves me a lot of money because that could be expensive too. But in terms of doing it, you want it to be genre consistent. Again, you'll look on Amazon and look at the genres, and you'll see certain kinds of book covers for different genres. Follow it just like movie posters, same thing. But you should follow it. Don't do what you feel. Do what meets the genre, because those are the people, they look for that stuff and they respond to it. So in fantasy novels, this is a common thing with a central, usually actually even sometimes a circle, or usually just sometimes only a central single image, like maybe a dragon or something, or just a shield or something like that. But I pushed it a little bit and had a few more images, but I tried to keep it simple and iconic, because that's how fantasy are. Now, my first covers were not like that, and I learned my lesson. I had a few pictures on there. It wasn't good. But you do need a professional looking cover, folks. It's going to cost you money, anywhere from $200 to $2,000, depending. And I do think you get your money's worth in general. We'll talk about where you can get that in a second. But you've got to have a professional cover, and you've probably seen them on Kindle, the bad covers people have made. It makes all the difference in the world. It's worth the money. One of the places you can get a pretty cheap cover is Fiverr. And Fiverr is basically, they have to offer something for $5. So you could probably get someone who'll do a book cover for $5. Again, you get what you pay for, I think. But they'll also be able to offer, well, for a little bit more money, I'll give you this, this, and this. So, you can maybe pay for as much as $50 to $100 even for a cover, which has really ruined it for us professional designers in the world, because it's brought the price down. Someone in Kuala Lumpur can do it for super cheap, but it costs us more to make a cover, right? But nevertheless, if you really want to, you can try Fiverr. There are other places as well, but if you absolutely cannot afford anyone, One way of doing it by yourself is Shutterstock. Now, I say this cautiously, though. Shutterstock is a place where they have millions of stock photos, and it costs like $30 for 2 photos. And it takes a few hours to search. Like, say you want to do a dragon novel, search for dragon pictures. You know, they've got millions, so it takes some hours to find a good one too. They have a lot of good ones, though. Believe me, I'm amazed as a designer. The reason why I'm saying to consider this is you can, if you search long enough, there's a lot of abstract pictures as well. You can find an image that the image itself could be the cover. You just have to slap type on it. I'll show you in a second. Takes a few hours of searching, and they have some amazing images. And in fact, I used Shutterstock for this. Each of these was a separate image. The background image was a picture of the ocean, separate shield image, separate sword, and a separate shape. Snake. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 images. I photoshopped them, obviously. But, of course, like I said, I'm a professional designer. You're not going to be that good. However, you can find a good image on Shutterstock and slap on a title if you're careful. For example, I went and did this. I just did this like in 5 minutes, okay? Just to show you, it's not going to be super great, but it's not going to be bad. For instance, I thought, a dragon story. So I searched on Shutterstock dragon, found thousands of images, but I found this, and that kind of looks like a cover if you've seen fantasy novels, right? And then all I did was I slapped on type. I didn't take any time. I just took any type font that was basically, bam. I did that in 5-10 minutes. And that's not terrible, but it's not real bad.
Good job.
Yeah, it's a good job. That's exactly right. Which is why I want to temper everything I'm saying by the fact that I also accept reality, because as reality, I have to do everything myself, and I can't always afford the best. So I do the best I can with the money I've got. So that's why I want to give you some other opportunities. But actually, very good point. But what's interesting is they also have more abstract images. Like, here's one I whipped out in 5 minutes. I found some skull for some horror movie, right? So that's kind of abstract. You can go abstract. You don't, but it takes a little bit longer to find some of those images, and that's one image. So it's pre-done, and it's done really professionally. That's my point, and that's what's so exciting about it. Did you have a question over there?
Yeah. So does paying that $30 give you the right to use it for whatever?
Royalty free. They do have a special category when you're looking on there. Make sure you're not choosing editorial, but everything other than the editorial, it's all royalty free on Shutterstock. And yeah, for $30, that's amazing. And good stuff. Like 15 years ago, they didn't have this kind of good quality stuff.
So Google Images and then manipulating the image would be off limits?
As far as I know, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you just Google for images, yeah, that's definitely a violation of copyright. And you don't want to do that. Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. Good point. Because once you start selling it, yeah, absolutely not. But that's...
You can't manipulate those.
You can do anything you want to them. Absolutely. You have the right to. Absolutely. Now, let's take a look at some examples of what not to do with book covers. This is called Kindle Covers Disasters. It's actually a website, and I just love these. So here's some good examples. Arrival of the Overlords, Novel 2, Invasion Planet Earth. You don't want to put your author's picture on a book about the invasion of planet Earth, a fantasy novel. That doesn't work, folks. Be aware of what you're doing or what you're having done. Unless you're an overlord. This one, I love the title. Angry is a gay novel. Angry man pounded by the fear of his latent gayness over a dinosaur transitioning into a unicorn. Wow. That's a title! Yeah. Isis, the beauty myth. Yeah, look at that picture. There's a myth about beauty there, isn't there? I love this one. Three-way tie. Now look at the guy on the left and look at the guy on the right. Is there really a tie there? Oh, and it's bad photoshopping. Don't do Photoshop if you're not good at it. Have someone do it for you. Really, find a designer, even if it's a friend who can do it for you cheap. Look at like Olympia School for Gods. Did they have a school for design? I mean, golly, look at the pictures. Like, they must have Google imaged it or something. It's like it's like a cheap low res image. You can't even read it down there. I mean, oh, that's bad. And look at the subtitle. A normal school with a normal teen world, except the teens are demigods. Except the potty shed. Now, is that erotic?
Nice.
More bad photoshopping, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. A deadly lesson. Now, this one is actually like a book about a serious, like, paranormal and murder mystery. It's like, what? Know your genre, folks. I think what did they write in here? They go, I need a cover that says murder, mystery, suspense, and paranormal intervention. That's their commentary. I love this one. The Devil's Bestiary, an anthology of horror. I'm sorry, but that's cute. You cannot make a penguin anything other than cute. Even with the red evil eye, it's still cute. Yeah. Well, here's a good one. My Weakened Soul. Look at that picture. I mean, folks, and everything about this is bad. Like, on the right side is a half-piece child, the left side is half drug addict. Oh, then here's a good one. Senior Sex Parties 5. I'm telling you, that doesn't look like a party I want to go to.